Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of the Phoenix Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Janet Sandberg, and today we are celebrating 2 years of the podcast. And I just wanted to make a special little episode, just me, to thank everybody for making this podcast what it has become and share some thoughts about the last couple of years and the next couple of years. So for those of you who have just recently found the podcast, welcome, welcome. For those of you who have been listening the whole time, thank you, thank you. So yeah, I started this podcast 2 years ago. I had the idea for it about 2.5 years ago. And if you've heard some of the episodes, I do mention it from time to time. But the background story is that we had a family friend die by suicide 2.5 years ago. And she was 23. And from the outside, it looked like she had everything together. And as those of us who have been there know that that is not always the case. And as it turned out, she was really, really struggling and ended up giving in to I don't want to say giving in, but she succumbed to the pain that she was going through. And what really bothered me, aside from just the fact that she was too young to die and had a whole life ahead of her, was that I didn't know what was happening. And as we know, when we're in those places, it's really hard to talk about how we're feeling, especially to people who have never been there, who just don't understand. So my greatest regret in this situation was that I didn't know and I didn't talk to her because I couldn't. But I feel like, and I understand that maybe I couldn't have changed anything, but I feel like if I had been able to share with her my story and told her that, yes, I've been there several times, and not to give up hope because it does get better. I know it doesn't seem like it at the time, but it does get better. And so since I couldn't do that, I started a podcast where people like me who have been through this, who have lived through suicidal ideation, can just share their stories and be like, yes, life can suck. Things can be terrible. Sometimes you just want the pain to end, but it does get better. And here I am sharing these stories every week. And part of it is also too, because when we're in that space of being so hopelessly depressed and feeling despair, that is really hard to talk to people, but it's really easy to lay there in the darkness and turn on a podcast and listen to these stories of hope. So that's how the podcast started. And I had no idea where this podcast was going to go, what was going to happen, how long it would last. I knew that I had a few friends who had stories that they were willing to share, and that's who I started with. The first 2 episodes are my dear friends, Sarah and Celeste. And throughout the episodes that followed, there were people I knew, mostly people I don't know. And they are brave enough and vulnerable enough to come on this podcast and share their deepest, darkest stories with the world, with the same hope that I have, that maybe we can touch somebody. Maybe the right person will hear this at the right time and we can keep them going for a little bit longer and hopefully a long time longer. But yeah, that's the story. And here I am. It's been 2 years. This is episode number 90. And so obviously I am not posting one episode every week or I would be on 104 right now, but it's just me. It's just me who does this podcast. And sometimes life gets busy and I don't get a podcast posted every week. So I do what I can when I can, and I try not to let it overwhelm me. I don't get paid to do this podcast. This is purely a passion project for me. And there are a lot of people out there who have different theories about podcasts and what they should be. But for me, it's just for me and for those who are listening. It's not a whole business situation. Yeah, literally make no money doing this. So anybody who listens, I'm eternally grateful for. Anybody who follows the podcast or subscribes to the podcast, that's the best way to show your support. Like and follow or subscribe. The podcast is wherever you're listening to it, Spotify, Apple, whatever other podcast places there are out in the world. And I have an Instagram as well, phoenix.wisdom.podcast, which is totally outdated right now. I really need to catch up on that. But again, it's just me. Posting the podcast is the most important thing. And eventually I'll get caught up on the social media. Eventually I will post the video podcast to YouTube. Right now they are just there as audio. There are video versions of the last while. I can't remember when I started also adding videos a few months ago. So there's a good number of podcasts that will eventually get posted as videos on YouTube. So keep your eyes out for that. And I think maybe also in the coming year, aside from getting caught up on my socials, is adding maybe some more professional perspectives from therapists, healers, coaches, people who work with the people who are struggling, who have a different perspective on healing and getting better. What else was I going to share with you? I need to check my notes if you're watching this video at some point in the future. If I'm looking down, it's because I tend to go off on tangents and I need notes to keep me organized and so I don't forget all the things that I want to share. I think the number one piece of advice that guests have given on the podcast in the last 2 years, I always end with the question, what would you tell somebody who is going through it right now, who is feeling suicidal, who's in despair? What would you tell them? And the number one answer is find someone to talk to. As ironic as that is, because like I said, when we're in it, talking is kind of the hardest thing, talking about it. But even if you don't do it in that moment, even if you wait until you're feeling a little bit better, and you talk to somebody about what has been going on, that's how we get help. We don't get help because we mask. We don't get help because we don't tell people how we truly feel. We don't get help because we feel like we're a burden. And all of those things are untrue. And so finding that someone to talk to is imperative. It's the only way to get through this and to live the life that we're meant to live. And it doesn't matter who you talk to. That's the other piece that came with this. Everybody finds someone different to talk to. Whether it's even just starting with a family member or a friend or a colleague, somebody who you trust. And then you can also get professional help. You can get therapy through a, therapist of sorts, counselors, social workers, psychologists, psychiatrists. There's so many different people out there who can help. You can also go the more holistic route, which we've had a lot of holistic healers on, and I include myself in that mix. I am a Reiki master teacher and intuitive life coach, which I don't talk about a lot on the podcast. I kind of drop it here and there. But for those of you who don't know what that is, Reiki is a Japanese word, and it just basically means energy. So it's using energy to help you feel better. I use the universal energy, the big energy that's out there, that makes the wind blow and the trees grow and all that good stuff, to help your own personal energy, the stuff that makes you breathe and your heart beat and your blood flow, all that kind of stuff. Your cells do what cell things do, helps you feel better that way. So it's taking source energy and helping your personal energy to do what it should be doing. And often when we are depressed and stuck, then our energy is also stuck. So Reiki can help get it going again. It's great for relieving stress and anxiety. It's great for easing depression. It helps you sleep better. It helps you feel better. It helps you process your emotions without having to talk about them, which is one of the great things. You just lie there and you're super relaxed. And sometimes you just start crying for what seems like no reason, but it's just you releasing the emotions. And the great thing is you don't have to know what the emotions are. You don't have to know where they came from. You're just able to release them and let go of them without digging up the dirt. And then you just feel so much better afterwards. Reiki can also help with feeling mindful, being more present in your day. It's just great. For me, it helps you feel relaxed, but also energized at the same time, which is a really great combination. And then also, as I said, I'm an intuitive coach, which means that I do sort of the energy stuff and the more woo-woo stuff along with coaching. So I do life coaching. I also do business coaching, but coaching as opposed to therapy is more future oriented. In therapy, we talk about, what's going on now and, what happened in the past that maybe brought you to where you are now. And coaching is kind of like, what's going on now and what can I do to create the future that I want to have, which is what I really like about it. And it gives you hope. It gives you motivation because together with your coach, you work towards like envisioning the future that you want to have. And it doesn't have to be like the big, 10-year life goal or anything like that. It can be like, what do I want my life to look like next week? And then we come up with concrete steps to take to get you there. And it's just like one little goal after the other. And yeah, it also helps you feel better just about life because you have that clarity, you know how to move forward. And it brings together sort of the whole body, mind, spirit piece where you just end up feeling better and you feel more empowered. And a lot of I think also the trauma that comes with depression and suicidal ideation is that we feel like everything in life is beyond our control. There's nothing we can do about anything, and we just want the pain to stop. And we have no other way to do that than to end our lives. But there are other ways. So some of the stuff that I do helps with that. Some of the stuff that other people do helps with that. Therapy, medication, there's a billion things out there. There are as many solutions as there are problems. Sometimes you have to try different things to get the people, you can try therapy with one person and you just don't click. Just like you're not friends with everybody in the world. Sometimes you need to try again. And it's hard. It's hard when you're struggling to have to start over with somebody else. Sometimes that's what you need to do. The last thing I want to share on this little mini episode is that I am always looking for guests. And I know a lot of the guests that I have on the podcast are professionals of some sort, or they have businesses, they're authors, they're speakers, they're business owners, they're, all of these things. And mostly that's just because of I post in various Facebook groups looking for guests, and those are the people who are in those Facebook groups. But you don't have to be any of those things. The only thing that is required of my guests is that you have a story to share, that you yourself have experienced suicidal ideation and you're still here to tell the story. So if you want to share your story, this podcast is literally for anyone and everyone. As many listeners as we have that many guests. So if you're listening to this and you want to share your story, just reach out. You can comment on the podcast. You can message me on Instagram, phoenix.wisdom.podcast. You can email me, janet@janetsandberg.com. So I would love to reach more of you, listeners, to connect with more of you. I always read the comments, and I understand that the nature of this podcast and the people listening to it are not necessarily in a space in which they are feeling like they want to reach out. But if you do, I'm here. If you want to comment, please do. If you want to just say hi, then please do. If you want to be a guest, like I said, that's open. If you would like to work together, that's open. I am here with this podcast to help as many people as possible, to reach as many people as possible. And I meant to do the stats before I did this, but this podcast has been listened to in over 50 countries around the world, which blows my mind. I absolutely cannot believe that little old me And this little passion project has been able to reach people literally all over the world. And that is my goal, is to keep doing that, to keep reaching more people, to keep growing, to keep inspiring people, to keep putting hope out into the world. So if you, my dear darling listeners, can help with that, by, like I said, subscribing, following, sharing on your socials, just getting the word out there, I would be so, so grateful. And I am so, so grateful that I am still here doing this after 2 years. And I look forward to, I don't know how many more years this will keep going. As long as I have guests and people willing to share their stories, then I will be here sharing them. Thank you so much again for being here, for listening, for being here, for staying, for not giving into the darkness. I thank you and I appreciate you, and I am so grateful to be here. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Remember that you are loved, you are worthy, you are valuable, you are meant for more, and that it really does get better. If you are in crisis, there are numbers that you can call or text to get the help that you need. That information for Canada and the US is in the description below each episode. If you are in immediate crisis, please call 911. We love you, and I hope you'll listen again.